So this is where we're at the beginning of pulling the motor. We have everything disconnected, ECU pulled out on top, hoses all disconnected and labeled, pulled back from the sides of the car, everything pulled off with the firewall. There's a hose deep down inside there that you can't really see, but you can access it from the bottom. That is for the heater core. You gotta disconnect that one as well, or else you're gonna be having fun replacing your heater core later on. For me, I was replacing my control arms anyways, so I just went ahead and removed the entire front suspension. But the way that I'm going to drop this, with the subframe, you have to at least unbolt the lower control arms and pull those aside. Underneath the car, I still have the downpipes attached, exhaust disconnected afterwards, drive shaft is unbolted and will come apart once we lower the motor. I also undid the middle section with the bearing just to try and give a bit more flexibility to the drive shaft as we drop it down. So here's the plan for getting it out. We're going to take this 3-foot strap right here with a couple of shackles and bolt it across the motor from that connection there to that one right down there. I'm going to pull the ECU and one out to the side, probably hang it out somewhere where it won't get damaged. Then from there, take the hoist, slide it under, attach it to the top of the motor, and then I'm going to take my jack and go around to the back side of the transmission and put it up under there to stabilize it. These two plates with casters are going to be rolled underneath, one under the subframe and one under the mount for the transmission. And then as my friend and I lower the whole engine, tranny, subframe assembly down, it will settle on these casters and then we can roll it out from under the car. I'm using a set of instructions from ProDemand to remove the motor, and one of the final steps you have to do actually is disconnect the shifter linkage and slave cylinder. So there's the slave cylinder, shifter linkage, and there's one more cable on the other side that you can't see. But to do that, you actually have to drop the motor about 4 inches or 100 millimeters down, then stick your hand up in there and unbolt the one bolt for the slave cylinder, that one right there that you can see. And then I believe it's 1 or 2 bolts for each one of the shifter linkages, and then hang those up with a wire. You don't actually have to disconnect the slave cylinder line. You can keep it all plumbed. You don't have to re-bleed it afterwards. You just have to hang it up so it doesn't fall down or get damaged. It's also important to remember that when you're removing the drive shaft, you should mark its original position. Just that way you can ensure that it's not being put on in a different orientation and can get knocked out of balance. These are the bolts really holding the subframe in. So you have your main bolt and then a couple of bolts back to each one of these aluminum mounts for the transmission. And then over towards the front of the motor, same thing, main bolt for the subframe, and then a couple of bolts that go back for the aluminum motor mounts. Those will all have to come undone after tension is put on the hoist and the jack to keep the motor in place.